Hello friends, this is Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming and welcome to another Path of Exile video. In today's video I'm going to be going over 3.9 expansion. I'm going to be going over the new League Metamorph, and then I'm going to be going over Path of Exile 2. That's right, if you haven't heard yet, there is going to be a Path of Exile 2 and I'll get into more details on that later. I'm going to be going over a lot of information here, so I'll leave timestamps below. We're going to go over the trailer for each thing here, and then I'm going to talk about my thoughts on it and everything I know from watching the Exile Con all day yesterday. So this is going to be unscripted, pretty casual. I hope you enjoy. There's a lot of information here, and let's get started with the Path of Exile Conquerors of the Atlas official trailer, the new endgame for Path of Exile 3.9. And I'm a little bit in the way here, so I apologize for that, but I might...
Listen carefully, for this is important. I worked with a group of exiles once, much like yourselves. Together, we faced a terrible evil that plagued the Atlas and threatened our world. Through great perseverance, we were able to defeat the Elder. But it wasn't enough. They kept going back. Over and over, again and again. There was something inside them that could never be satisfied.
Very meta.
They sought more power, more prestige. They sought to rule and conquer those strange lands. Each time they returned, I feared more and more what they were becoming. So I did what I thought was right. I sealed them in the Atlas. Forever.
Like some of those portal effects a lot.
They found a way back. Back at the Atlas. Hooray. POE League incoming. All right, got a new red guy on the throne there. Releases December 13th, so less than a month from today. And so for those of you who didn't catch it, very meta league there. Basically, our previous characters had entered the maps and we had defeated the Elder, so no more Shaper, no more Elder. We've spent so much time in the maps mapping, and eventually the influence of the map device and just the pure volume of us mapping constantly being in there drove our characters insane. So our characters, kind of, I guess, the meta of our characters are going to be the enemies. And so Xana's like, man, these guys are getting crazy, they're getting corrupt. I'm going to lock them into the Atlas. And if anybody's watched DBZ, so there was a kind of an instance in the Majin Buu saga where they tried to lock Majin Buu in the hyperbolic time chamber, and he just kind of was so powerful he screamed his way through dimensions. I kind of imagine it's a little bit something like that, although maybe there's a little more nuance. Maybe they just mapped their way into the maybe the main world, maybe Rayclass became a map that they could enter as well. Who knows? It's some crazy stuff going on there, but there's a lot of cool stuff to talk about in this other than the story. 5 new endgame map bosses. I'm assuming since they're based on exiles, they're going to be very thematic. I know there's going to be a hunter, there's going to be a Crusader. I don't remember all of them. This one looks like it's based on the Witch and uses a lot of ice type spells. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of cool ground effects if you were paying attention. So the boss fights is interesting. The Crusader, the Templar based one, is kind of looking like Santa a little bit here, as you can see, with his red cloak and his long beard. So coming out just in time for Christmas. Perfect timing there. And then we have this guy. So I'm assuming it's going to follow a similar theme to the previous endgame, where there will be 4 kind of Guardian type setups. So you'll have the 4 different exiles that you'll have to beat. And then there will be this final one. And I don't know, he might be based on the Shadow or something, but he looks pretty cool. He was sitting on a throne. So I assume he's going to us. So kind of similar in that we fought the 4 Shaper Guardians and then Shaper himself. I think this is going to have a similar setup. We're also getting the ability to, so rather than going from the outside corners into the center of the map, we'll be starting at the center of the map and working our way out. So instead of kind of fighting our way into a stronghold, it's more like we're starting at a central point and trying to reclaim the Atlas. And I think that's really cool. The Atlas is now more visually set up into little sectors or quadrants, all of which can be affected by sextants. So sextants are going to be a lot less centralized, meaning you can use them in an entire area of maps going forward. That's going to be really cool. And we're going to be using things called watchstones, which will allow us to socket the map, modifying all of the maps at the same time, including increasing their tiers. It'll be possible to actually increase the tiers of every map in a sector of the map to tier 14 to 16, which is really cool. Probably means that you can permanently sustain endgame maps going forward. And there are a few other implications. Like they mentioned that unique maps will also be able to be upgraded in tier. Does this mean we're going to be able to run tier 16 Coward's Trials? If so, the journey to level 100 is going to be a lot easier, and tier 16 Coward's Trials are going to chase items, very expensive, because kind of like pure breach stones, man, you already get an insane amount of experience even at high levels from Coward's Trials, and being able to have a tier 16 instead of a tier 4 is going to increase your leveling ability by an insane amount. Pretty cool stuff there. Another cool thing they mentioned in the trailer, Support Gem Plus, and we're going to talk about these. Just going to scroll over them. As you can see, added cold damage plus support. And these are going to be similar to like Empower and Enhance, where they're going to have a lower gem level limit, but they're going to require an enormous amount of experience to level up. As you can see here, this is a level 2 Blasphemy plus support, and to go from level 2 to level 3, it's going to require 452 million experience. That means you're probably going to, in order to level these up, have to use Betrayal, get Torah into Research as a rank 3. I have a video on that if you want to check it out. I'll link it in the description below, helping out with the Betrayal mechanic. But yeah, a lot of grinding to get these up. It looks like 5 is probably going to be the max level. I don't know if that will be true for all of them, but I would imagine so. And you get some cool stuff here. So added cold damage plus at level 5 gives +1 to level of supported cold skill gem. And then supported skills have 227 to 341 added cold damage. So that's practically a Hyri's Ire. Hyri's Ire. I don't know if I got the right one there, but the Hyri's body armor adds a whole bunch of cold damage. This is way more than the added cold damage support gem. With that amount of base damage and then a mini multiplier with the added supported cold skill gems, you're going to be getting huge damage boosts on your cold spell stack. Very, very strong. Or maybe you want to use Frozen Mallet or something. And then we have stuff like Ancestral Call plus support. Now can hit 3 additional nearby hits. And interesting thing here, quality does something very different. They added this on purpose so we could see what quality would do this. Extra targets for supported skills can now be found 11% farther away. That basically adds more AoE to your single target melee setups that you put Ancestral Call on.
That's pretty crazy. And then we have Fork Plus here, which is one that they showed in the presentation. And projectiles from supported skills fork an additional time. That could be pretty insane for clear as far as fork goes. As you can see, it doesn't have any less damage as a start. I imagine it'll probably get more damage as it levels up or have a reduced mana multiplier, as they mentioned that mana multipliers could go down for some of these. All of these look very valuable. And once again, you can see 411 million experience to level this up from level 1 to level 2. Looks like it's not going to be as exponential as Empower if these are consistent throughout. This one has 500 million from level 3 to level 4, and this one has 452 million from 2 to 3. So it looks like it's going to be more of a linear progression, but those are all still very large numbers. You're definitely going to need that in your Betray. Or you're just going to have to grind maps super hard to get those. So we also have new influence rare items. As you can see, there are new Crusaders, Educators, Hunters, and Warlords Exalted Orb. There are 4 new types of influence to make up for the lack of Shaper influence and Elder influence. There are still going to be Shaped and Elder items from the sounds of it, but they're going to be much less common, as I guess it's going to be more roundabout to fight the Shaper and Elder. Maybe it'll be similar to the way that they did it with Syndicate League, where you can find those fractured maps through Xana now. Maybe you can do the same thing, find Shaped maps or Elder maps, as kind of similar to how they show up if you have a map tab. They show kind of that they're Shaper or Elder influenced. Might be similar to that. I would imagine that's how they're going to implement it. Things like Watcher's Eyes are going to be much less common. But getting into this, that makes me think the 4 Guardian type bosses are going to be called the Crusader, the Educator, the Hunter, and the Warlord. And just from these names, Crusader is going to be the Templar probably. Hunter is going to be a Ranger. Warlord is going to be a Marauder type. And Educator, I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Probably the Witch. So that's an interesting little setup. They're going to be able to add those modifiers with these currency items. You see an example of some of these. So these boots you have Tailwind if you've dealt a critical strike recently. I would imagine that's going to be from Hunter's Exalted Orb. Being able to have Tailwind on, say, a Cyclone character, for instance, would be really crazy, because Tailwind actually increases all of your speeds. So attack speed, movement speed, all of that stuff is Cycloner. Of course, that'll be good on pretty much everyone. It's going to be more movement speed on boots. Just from this, you can see that there's life regen, movement speed, and life on this. So you can tell this is going to be a prefix, which is pretty nice, because right now movement speed is suffix. So that means you're going to be able to get this with movement speed on boots. Very powerful. Kind of increases the cap on how much movement speed you can get on boots. And then this one here, we have really interesting stuff here. +1 maximum power charges on a helmet. Boy, as if Void Battery wasn't strong enough. This is pretty crazy. Socketed spells have +3 to crit strike chance. Again, pretty strong. We'll have to see what the other things are. If we can get extra supported skill gem or support gems on helmets like we could with the Elder and Shaper. If that's the case, then maybe a 5-link with +3 to strike chance might be like alternate 5.5 link, kind of like we had in previous setups. But either way, the +1 to maximum power charges is insanely powerful. This one as well, +1 to all old skill gems, +1 to all dexterity skill gems, and that is on an amulet. That's pretty insane as well. Maybe some ice shot action, maybe there's a lot of good stuff you can do with to get X. And I would imagine this is maybe Educator's Exalted Orb, although this might be that.
this one actually, I'm not really sure. It's hard to say where they're going. But I imagine each of these are going to a specific one, and they'll all have their own modifiers that they have on different types. Or maybe they'll have global stuff that they can get on any gear. Maybe you'll be able to roll +1 maximum power charges on every kind of gear. I think that would be a little too crazy for like assassins or for double void battery characters, so maybe not. But it is a possibility. Who knows? Bow rework, we're getting some new bow skills. Ensnaring arrow is basically exactly what it sounds like. It ensnares things in place. They have slowed movement speed, and as they move farther away from the snare up to a certain point, they get additionally slowed, and they also take increased projectile damage while they're ensnared. So pretty cool. There are some ways to add this. I saw that there was like a leak that caused, or maybe this was in two, maybe I'm getting ahead of it. But there's going to be ways to ensnare things pretty reliably from the looks of it. And yeah, it's just another crowd control ability like Chill, very powerful. And also like Chill, there's a way to modify damage with it. So really nice. Get this for free. It's going to be nice. I don't know if you're going to use it as a support setup. You might though. Just put it on a ballista, which they don't have it here, but they're revamping ballistas to kind of be their own thing. They're adding more supports. They're adding more kinds of ballistas. Iron Commander builds might get a lot better going forward from this. We have barrage support. Huge mono multiple, 150%. Deals a lot less projectile damage, but it makes it so everything can be a barrage. You can have a barrage fire arrow. You can have a barrage lightning arrow, which might be more interesting because kind of AoE component of that. Supported skills have 5% more attack time per projectile. So it kind of extends the duration of that barrage, makes it so you have to have a really attack speed with that. And it can be used with bows and wands, turning your wand attacks into. That's something you want to do. It's good because unfortunately it doesn't look like we're getting skills, but at least we're getting more wand supports. So that Arrow Nova, only with bows in this case. Basically what it does is you kind of fire it up into the air like Toxic Arrow. Ooh, need a drink here. Lots of talking going on. All right. And then it falls down kind of like Toxic Rain or Blast Rain support, or just Rain of Arrows. And when it hits the ground, it'll shoot out into a Nova. So that's pretty interesting. It doesn't look very reliable for clear. Maybe if you have enough projectiles, perhaps if you did it with Split Arrow, which gets a bunch of additional, it'll have a dense enough area, for instance, that it might actually be worthwhile. But it looks like there's just 5 little points that it shoots out into, kind of like, oh, I'm trying to remember staff's name for some reason. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But, you know, the unique Nova staff, whichever that. It looks similar to that. Maybe for certain AoE arrows that might be worthwhile, but yeah. Oh yeah, here's the ballista. So we get some new ballistas. Artillery ballista. It summons a ballista that propels a sequence of fiery arrows into the air. The arrows impact the ground in a line. So it's kind of like laying down this line of fire. It looks a lot like Blast Rain, but kind of in a strafing diagonal thing. So apparently the AI is set up in such a way that it'll try to target as many enemies as possible. It'll go diagonally over the screen. Looks really cool. 100% of physical damage converted to fire damage. So we get some nice conversion there. Might be able to do some multi-conversion chaos conversion, maybe a shadow, or just use any of the normal conversion to chaos. Deals only 37.8% base damage and +2 number of summoned ballista totems specifically. So it starts off, the ballistas count as totems, so there's no longer ranged attack totems. They're just all ballistas. Fire 6 additional arrows. That's really cool.
And if they all hit the same target, which isn't likely because of the strafe, but maybe if it's a really big target, the 37.8% base damage times 6 is going to end up being a lot. Anyway, you can increase the maximum totems the same way you would with anything else. Iron Commander, you can go over and get the +1 totems, but you can't cast other spells on the tree. Lots of additional ways to do that. The multi-totem support skill, I assume, is going to work with this, because as you see up in the supported types, the very first one is totem. I was going to point at my screen like you can see. I can't point with my pointer, unfortunately, because up in the top right under the totem. And then we have Shrapnel Ballista. It summons a ballista that fires multiple with extreme force, breaking them apart into shrapnel. Enemies can be multiple arrows from the same attacks. So at close range, this is going to be able to shotgun. It's not a mechanic that's been around for a while, but I imagine enough totems shotgunning a single target is going to be a crazy amount of fires 2 additional arrows, 40.5% base damage at level 2, up quite a bit. With added physical damage is very significant, kind of like the melee rework. This is getting additional +2 to number of summoned ballista totems. So as a base, 3 ballistas, and then fires 2 additional arrows. So if you can get them all to hit the same target, you're going to get the flat added damage, and it's going to be, in this case, 121.5% base damage, and probably much higher at higher level. So this seems pretty strong. Quality gives projectile speed in this case, it looks like. Seems really, really nice. So going to be some new uniques as well. This one looks pretty cool. When you cast a spell, sacrifice all mana to gain additional added maximum lightning damage equal to 25% of sacrificed mana for seconds. If you can figure out a way to constantly regen your mana to full, maybe you have a really high base mana, but you have a bunch of it reserved. So you're getting this maybe 1,000 left over or something like that. You're getting 250 added maximum lightning damage, something like that, and it can regen very quickly because of how high your base mana is. You have some percent mana set up. That could be very, very cool. This is a pretty neat item here. This one is the coolest one in my opinion of them all. Can be modified while corrupted. Can have up to 5 implicit modifiers while item has this modifier. Then it has some percent life and some double resist, and that's pretty good. Pretty good as a baseline, not a terrible pair of gloves. But the most interesting thing is you can corrupt this thing up to 5 times. That could be really crazy. Now, that also means you have the opportunity to brick this 5 times. Take it to your double corruption temple. Oops, I think you are going to get a yellow pair of gloves more often than not. But for those lucky few who managed to get 5 corrupted implicits on this guy, we are talking maybe double curse on hit, some extra life, some extra attack speed. There's all sorts of possibilities. This is going to be the super RNG chase item, the new Enter's Gamble, Victor's Gamble, whatever it is, the Gamble ring. This is the new Gamble ring. You're going to be able to try to get 5 corrupt. Good luck. A double curse on hit, super strong. Lots of good stuff here. We get some Bottled Faith divination cards, 6 out of 6. Skin of the Lords, 6 out of 6. There was a 1 out of 1 corrupted unique helmet, or not corrupted, sorry, Eternal Labyrinth unique helmet. So it's going to have an Uber Lab helmet enchant on it, and it's going to be a unique right out of the gate. So that's pretty strong. Leash of Relation. I don't think I've actually seen this one. Okay, yes I have. So reduced effective offerings, some all attributes, some life. You can have an offering of each type, and offering skills have 50% reduced duration. So this is a pretty interesting thing where it's every offering. You know, I don't really use offerings that much, so I'm not an expert in this. I know the one of them gives attack speed, S speed, and movement speed. I know one of them gives a bunch of block chance, so
yeah, you can really pump up your minions and potentially yourself if you're a necromancer with this. That could be pretty good, pretty interesting. I don't know how used it'll be because it seems like high effort for kind of a medium payoff. Unless you have a lot of increased duration on your offerings, it's not going to last very long, but it seems pretty strong. Okay, so that's pretty much the league. Seems pretty crazy. We're going to next go into, oh, I also, actually that'll be for two. So let's go into the Metamorph League. I'm going to pop myself down into the corner a little bit again here. Excuse me. And we're going to watch this trailer while I take a sip of coffee and rest my voice.
Take a clean knife and cut a sample of flesh. Repeat 4 times. Mix the 5 samples in an aquaformatic solution. Heat. Stand back. The intrinsic darkness will make itself known. Observe its anger, its aggression. Observe its changing form. Never comfortable to stay in one shape for long. It will try to kill you. Best not let it. Plunge the clean knife repeatedly. Try more heat. More! Perfect. Only every living creature to go.
I really like the voice actor. I'm a big fan of the character design for the new one. Path of Exile Metamorph. Okay. Let's put it here. Alright, so Path of Exile Metamorph. Basically what it's going to be is it's going to be somewhat similar to Bestiary. You're going to run around and you're going to find enemies. Usually it sounds like rare and unique enemies that are going to drop, I don't know what they're called. Let's see. So you are going to find samples. Yes, I think they have a specific name. But basically you're going to find kind of essence of the enemies they're going to drop, and you're going to be able to kind of stitch them together, combine them together, maybe in his little vat he's got going here, and it will make a monster that is a combination of the 5 that can shapeshift from one form or to the other at will. And it sounds like what the end game of this is going to be is once you're in maps, each map will contain you'll be able to get these from the boss. I don't know if they'll be guaranteed, but it sounds like they might be. And then from like 4 other rare monsters on the map. And you'll be able to combine them, and you're going to find a version of this metamorphed monster that can be that boss plus all of those other different types. I guess it's going to have a scaling power level, and once it reaches a certain power level, it's going to be able to drop a fragment of basically the boss of that zone. And once you get 5 boss versions of, you're going to be able to craft those together, and you're going to be able to create some abomination that's basically 5 different bosses stitched together. So you might see something that's like transforming from Purity shooting his laser beam, and then all of a sudden it turns into Dominus and he slams you, and all of a sudden, you know, it turns into maybe Ball Oversoul and he starts shooting lasers at you. I don't know. It's gonna be pretty crazy stuff. Combine 5 bosses together, and once you've killed them, well, I imagine they have some pretty interesting drops for you. So one of the cool things about this is that you get catalysts, and what catalysts do is they allow you to actually add quality onto jewelry. And what adding quality onto the jewelry does, well, it depends on the catalyst, because they all add quality to the jewelry, but it makes it so that they're more likely to roll certain kinds of mods. So this one adds quality that enhances life and mana modifier on a ring amulet and it actually will increase the amount of, for instance, life or mana on that. So if you had a ring with 70 health, let's say, you have 20%, well, you're going to get 14 more health, for instance. So that'll go up to 84 health on that ring. That's a lot of health. And any other kind of health modifiers, I imagine if you have 6% health, that'll increase too. So if you have 5% health, it'll go up to 6% health instead. Same thing for mana. This one we have caster modifiers, so like spell damage, cast speed, that kind of thing. Those will get upped, and it'll increase the likelihood, even though it doesn't say that, they did say in the presentation, it'll increase the likelihood kinds of rolled on it. So if you quality up say you want to make a ring with a lot of life, you can quality it up with Fertile Catalyst, and you just throw an elk on it, it's much more likely to life mod, and when you roll that life higher than based on the normal tier. I don't think it'll increase the tier, so you still might roll, or a chance to roll different tiers, so you still might roll like 7 life. But it's still pretty nice to have that kind of, and I think the most interesting thing for me for this is that you should be able to combine this with fossils, which also increase your chances of rolling certain type of modifiers. I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. So all of a sudden, we're like, oh, we want a crazy life chest. We want a chest with 150 health and 12% health. We're going to use no, we can't do that because that's an armor. Scratch that. Get that out of here. But you know, you can do it with jewelry. You can say, oh, we want a ring with 95 health, maybe, or life. Sorry, 95 life and like 6% life. Maybe we can use life fossil combination with this. Pretty strong. This one increases the quality of resistances. So 48 being the top roll for resistances currently. 28% or 20% on that is quite a lot. That's like 9.6% increase, or 9.6% increased. I don't know if up to 10. So I don't know, you might be able to get 58 all resist on a ring, and all of a sudden you can basically cap out all your resistances on one ring. That could be pretty cool by having all three, tier 1 roll. Standard's going to have a lot of, it's going to get some really crazy stuff going on. I'm sure a lot of people will get a bunch of these and get them over to standard for some crazy metacraft. But yeah, as you can see right here, this one is caster modifiers plus 20%, 31% increased spell damage, 15% increased cast speed. That's a whole lot. This is pretty strong for cast. So endgame metamorphs. You can collect samples from map bosses to create deadly metamorph powers, challenge and rewards of multiple bosses. Dangerous. Looks like they don't really have any of the words associated with these up, but I imagine other than the catalyst, there might be some new uniques associated with them. I know there's already new uniques associated with Conquerors Atlas, but I think they'll probably end up having some uniques associated with endgame metamorphs as well. Not entirely sure, but we'll have. All right. Take a short breather here before we get into our final little trailer here. Path of Exile 2. Whew. Path of Exile 2. This one just blew my expectations out of the water. So what we're going to see here is very different. I'm going to get myself out of the way. You guys don't want to see my face here. You want to see the trailer.
The gods are dead, but left on their own, men will always seek to take their place.
Criminals! Your sentence is to be hanged from the neck until dead. Let your souls feed the first ones, and your bodies feed the land.
The only result is pain and death.
The demon is escaping! Kill her!
Get her.
So cool. Reminds me of the old
Only 20 years since Kitava fell, and already corruption spreads like a plague through these shattered lands. Wretched malevolence lurks in the shadows. It is our calling to put it to an end. It must be done if Rayclass is to survive.
Alright. New 7-act storyline. One game, 2 campaigns. So that's right. We're getting a sequel to Path of Exile. This one's set 20 years after Kitava Falls. And we're going to be playing the same classes, technically, but they're not the same people. So what that means is we are getting new ascendancies for all of the classes. And we're going to have the option to play the original 10-act campaign or parallel 7-act new campaign. And what that means is there's going to be a lot of difference in the way you start off a new league, for instance. When leveling a new character, you'll have the option to level in each act. They'll share an end game. So you can choose to level through the 7-act Path of Exile 2, and you'll have access to the new ascendancies, 3 for each character except for Scion, which will have 1 new ascendancy. I'm going to assume that 1 new ascendancy is similar to the old ascendant in that it's going to have aspects of all new ascendancies for the new classes. And or you can go and play the old campaign with the old ascendancy. And playing through the old campaign with the old ascendancies will unlock the ability to play the old ascendancies in the new campaign and vice versa. So you're going to have the option, a lot of different options. It sounds like older accounts are going to have the old ascendancies grandfathered into the new campaign, and we'll probably still have to play the new campaign to unlock the new ascendancies to play in the old campaign. Which is fine. And I think every time you get a class up to ascendancy level, that's good enough to unlock all 3 ascendancies for that class in the other campaign. So that's what it sounds like. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's really cool. As you can see, there have been some great graphical overhauls. I recommend bringing up the trailer and watching it yourself in high definition because it is incredible. The lighting effects are incredible. The graphics have been overhauled. The character models have been overhauled. Animations have been overhauled. Lightings, shadows, same thing. Textures, all of that stuff. You can, apparently even the sounds have been overhauled. So you can hear yourself walking on sand and then changing from sand to a bridge to grass. All of that sounds different. Apparently the feedback as far as the sounds from using skills is also a lot more satisfying. So just a complete overhaul of the game, which will be available. They're overhauling the original campaign as well. Really cool. So yeah, 20 years have passed. There's a little bit of a gameplay preview, but I think it's a little long for this video. Yeah, 14 minutes. I would recommend go watching that yourself on the Path website. It talks about the new Ascendancy classes. The ones we've seen so far are the Ranger, which is going to have a shape-shifting specific class. It also looks like we might get beast summons because the portrait for the Ranger, which is not in here. I'll show you the picture. You have this awesome hanging scene in the beginning. I really like that. The previous character introduction that they had a long time ago, where you can kind of see them being judged by this and sent to the island and everything, and they had their intros. I really like the witch ones. If they hadn't, I don't remember. Yeah, you can see this kind of essence drainy type, maybe necromancer or chaos witch here. See this ancestral based marauder here. Might be a lot of like totems and ancestral call support, but the ones we saw were the ones. And yeah, Ranger has some shape-shifting specialties. Looks like they might get bestial summons based on the splash art I've seen. Then there's there's some new bow ascendancies, including the ability to use your bow as a melee weapon. The ability to use melee skills with a bow. Really crazy stuff. Really off the wall things there. All sorts of cool stuff. I want to get into this, the new skill gem system. So, Path of Exile 2 introduces the next generation of Path of Exile's iconic skill system. Support gems are now socketed directly into skill gems, removing many of the frustrations present in the old system while maintaining all the previous depth. It's now possible to 6-link every skill for your character to use. So this means, all right, so weapons and shield combined will now have a total of 4 links. If it's a two-handed weapon or a bow, which counts as a two-handed weapon, you have up to 4 6-links that you can have in them. Armors have 2, and then I believe your helmet, boots, and gloves all have 1 set of gem links that they can have. So what this means is, as a base, if you have normal gear, you're going to be able to have up to 9 6 sockets. This is going to be very impactful. They're getting rid of fusings because there's no longer sockets on gear. Instead, you're going to roll the sockets which will already be fully linked using jeweler's orbs on your gems themselves. Gems are going to drop with a specific amount of links, specific amount of sockets, and as a baseline, I believe it was you can roll up to 3 links with your gem level up to 24. 25 becomes a 4 link you can get up to. Level 35, I think it was, you can get a 5 link, and at level 50 you can get up to a 6 link. So, or it was 20, not 25. So they've kind of reduced that. You can get a 4 link a little bit earlier on. So what that means is that instead, the only way that gear sockets are going to matter is that they will probably be able to be chromed, because they kind of start as they always drop the same kind of socket. So evasion stuff's always going to have like double green usually. Hybrid stuff, as you can see, there's this green red socket here. That means a green or a red skill gem. And that's going to be true for all of the hybrid. You might maybe making it a little bit more attractive, generally speaking, but things like bows are always going to start with 4 green gems, which means your main skill that you socket in is going to be green. The sockets that you can link into that depend on what are the sockets associated with the gem itself. So that's very, very interesting. It basically means unset rings are going to go way up in value because they're going to be able to add an additional 6 link. Man, you could have up to 11 6 links. Tabula Rasa got nerfed. It's instead of giving you just a set 6 link, it's going to have 3 white sockets instead. giving you access to 10 6 sockets instead of normal 9, but that seems less valuable than just being able to use unset ring, which actually has the ability to have stats on it, unlike a tabula rasa. So if you need, for whatever reason, 10 link setups, probably going to have to go unset, rip tabula, unfortunately. One of my most popular videos includes how to farm tabula rasa. Probably not going to get as many views as it's not as valuable item. On an Onigoroshi, though, you can still go check that out. But yeah, other than that, or Lore Week, really cool. There's also going to be gems called meta gems, and meta gems are going to be gems that are not active socket into, and it's going to include all of the trigger gems like cast when damage taken, cast on channeling, all of that kind of thing. And you'll be able to trigger active skills and support skills into those. They'll be modified by whatever the meta gem is. Also ballistas, and I assume things like the trap support gem, the mine support gem, those will all be meta gems as well. And you'll be able to set up your links through those instead. So they would take up one of the initial gem slots. Say for trap, you would have to socket into a green socket on gear, so like a piece of evasion gear or evasion armor hybrid or evasion intelligence hybrid, whatever it may be, something you can socket a green. And then you would put the trap gem in, and then you would socket whatever you wanted to modify. Say I wanted to blast rain trap or something, for instance. I would socket it in the blast ring, and then whatever support would go into that. So pretty straightforward for the most part. It sounds a little complicated, but it's actually a lot easier. So I didn't mention this. This is the key selling point. Now you can change gear without having to unsocket all of your stuff and make sure you have the right sockets. If you have a green gem with the colors already rolled on that green gem, say you need green, green, blue, red, and you replace your evasion gear with another piece of evasion gear, already have that same green socket, you can just switch it in your inventory. Don't have to mess with your gem link setups. This is going to be awesome for endgame, for leveling. It might desocket if you say there's a green and a blue, or potentially if you change to a armor base. I don't know what that's going to do, if it's going to socket and you'll have to find more green links to put it in. But as long as you change to another type that has the same kind of colors, then you're fine. Just switch gear at will. It sounds incredible. It sounds very convenient. So keeping that consistency sounds really, really nice. New equipment. Redesigns for all of the equipment. Look at how nice these shields look. These all look incredible. Also, new equipment base types. So this is a scythe. It actually does not have an implicit, and I noticed that there are a lot more. Well, of course, axes don't have. Never mind, forget that. They still do have implicits. I remember the crit chance on daggers. So, but interesting thing to note here, this is very different from current base types. It has a much wider weapon damage range and a higher attack speed. So you're going to get some different kinds of weapons. Really high. It's kind of like a lightning speed with that damage range, 5 to 30. And then you'll get a little bit more consistent ones here that are slower. And the weapon range on both is 13. Nothing too much to note. Pretty interesting. I guess the major change on that, it looks like maces, for instance, have a much tighter, more consistent, with a higher low end but a lower top end. So you'll probably get those trade-offs a little bit more from weapons. Maybe give you a little bit more to consider. I'm sure it's just going to come down to the DPS overall. You know, in the early game, that might be a consideration. And yeah, you can see the armors look really nice. The 3D models when they were demoing the game look incredible. So much better, a lot less goofy looking. You don't have as many like weird purple garbs and bells on your head, that kind of thing from the looks of it. So hopefully we'll get less goofy looking things and you won't feel so bad not having microtransactions while that's my hope. All right, and much more. So that is pretty much it. My speculations. Oh, actually, I do want to talk about some of the implications of the skill gem system. One more thing. So, I want to talk about things like Bitter Dream. Like, what does this mean for things where they have support gems automatically socketed into them? Are we going to be able to have a 12 link? What does it mean for like the golem rings that give you +3 to socketed golem gems? Are you going to be able to have a 6-link golem just casually chilling there with +3 to socketed golem gem and a bunch of other bonuses? Like, there's all sorts of things to consider with this new gem system. Are they going to end up revamping all of this stuff? What I do know for sure is that if there is a skill built into an item, for instance, Whispering Ice. Whispering Ice is going to have a skill gem that automatically comes with it, and it's going to have links associated with roll. You'll have to roll on the item, it looks like. So the one they showed in the demo had 2 blue sockets. You'll have to like 6 socket Whispering Ice, and then it still counts as one of the links, I believe, when it shows here. So this would just automatically have. I think that means you won't be able to get a 7 link Whispering Ice. I could be wrong on how that works, but if that's the case, will support gems just be automatically included if they're built into the item? So for instance, you put in an item into the Bitter Dream, all of a sudden these just automatically populate with support gems and you can't put more into them. That seems a little weak. I don't know if they would do it that way. I hope they don't do it. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this was rather long and ranty. Wow, over 52 minutes. Well, this is going up. So this has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye.